For the artists, for the passionate. Welcome to the Adventures Elsewhere podcast. Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the Adventures Elsewhere podcast. Or welcome, if it's your first time. I am your host, Jade Black, and today I am looking ahead to 2025. And yes, it's early for me to be doing that because it's November, but I'm in the space where I want to talk about that. And by the time this episode goes out, I have some stuff recorded, so it will actually be close to 2025. So I'm not going to be around the bush in the intro, for once. Yeah, write that in your diary. But let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the biggest thing that's happening in 2025 for me, without a doubt. Let's talk Mr. Nakagami. So, a little reminder, because it's been a while since I mentioned this. This is coming out on May the 27th, 2025. So the editing process, by the time this episode goes out, will either have begun or be imminent. And Mr. Nakagami is always the project in the determined ones that I feel is kind of... It's not the one I originally would have said would be the best place to start reading it. I mean, you can read the determined ones in any order. It really doesn't matter. But what I've done with the release cycle is I've done it in sort of what I consider to be ideal reading order. And I wouldn't always have said that Mr. Nakagami was ideal, but I increasingly think that it is, because it introduces you to so much stuff, so many different avenues, so many different questions, and just so much background on the world. It's a book that has a lot in it, and not a typical main character for a political thriller. He's a cinnamon roll, he's sweet, he's kind, he's lovely, and I want to wrap him up in a blanket and protect him from the world forever, because I just love him so much. And many of the other people have told me that they want to do that, and I'm going to get some very angry DMs. And I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be the start of something very important for me, not just as a creative. I mean, to me, it's pretty huge to get a book published, let alone that be the start of something that's been such a huge and fun, complex, and just unique creative project. There's been nothing even remotely like the determined ones that I've ever worked on that is, in so many ways, so contained. Mr. Nakagami is a complete, contained, standalone story in its own right, but then writing other things that are connected to it and coming back to it, having written and edited Snakebite and coming back and seeing how different it all is, I get that whole experience that any other reader would get by virtue of being a hardcore pantser of, oh wait, so is that what happened here, or oh, that's a different interpretation, and it's just... I love the determined ones so much, and Mr. Nakagami... I'm not going to say any one project is the best out of them, because I feel that's not only disingenuous, but I also feel like it's not a very fair comparison, because they are also different in their own way. But Miss Nakagami is one of those projects that I just love so wholeheartedly and have done from the beginning, see that actually come onto shelves, and that, I mean, when I get the first author copy through the post, when that arrives, I mean, like I did with Cozy-ish, but slightly different, I'm gonna be doing a little video about me, opening the author copy, because that's somewhat of the done thing, but I am fully expecting to cry because it's just so much. I put so much into Mr. Nakagami in particular. That's the moment writing Mr. Nakagami when I realised how big the Determined Ones is, how big that whole story world is, and how much I put into that book in particular, keeping track of everything, first doing that consistency checker and all the work in edits to cut it down from like 105k or whatever it fucking was to something that is more reasonable. And then all the work that went into that for Spark Pit, and that being the one that was full requested on day one, and the wait, and trying to arrange the call across time zones and schedules, and Mr. Nakagami it's huge. It really is, for me personally, for me spiritually, for me as a writer. To say it's gonna be the biggest thing that's happened in my life so far wouldn't be amiss, I don't think. And shortly after Mr. Nakagami's release comes another, and that is a novelette, and that is called Charcoal Rain. And this will be published also by Shadow Spark in their 2025 anthology. And this is not related to the Determined Ones. It's not like Count the Stars that was sort of the preview a year in advance. This is in no way related. This is a 1920s noir that I originally started drafting as a novel around the same time as Snakebite, and then it ended up being put away, and I reinvented it as a novelette so that I could continue doing it because I thought it was cool. And this is a piece that I'm excited for. I'm really glad that I did it because I always wanted to do a noir. I love noir, I love the aesthetic, I love the 1920s and the aesthetic and everything that goes with that. I'm sort of more than slightly obsessed, I'll admit. But yeah, having a noir come out, having another short story, effectively novelette short story, is kind of interchangeable really, because they're so short as long form goes. But having more shorts out, that's something I really want to do more of. I'm going to talk about that more a bit later. But Charcoal Rain, I'm pretty hyped for that too. And then we get on to Black Executioner, and my release dates for the entirety of the Determined Ones have been announced across all my socials. That's even on YouTube. I did a YouTube short of it for those that haven't seen. And if you do know, you're going to be saying, excuse me, Black Executioner comes out in 2026. The release date for that is January 13th, 2026. To which I say to you, aha, my friend. The release cycle at Shadow Spark takes about 6 months. So the vast majority of the work for Black Executioner will be done in 2025, and it will go on pre-order in December. So yeah, basically by the end of the year, because it's on pre-order, I'll but have 2 books out, plus a short story all coming in the same year, and that's epic. But yeah, I'm really excited. Black Executioner, Ai Nagashima is a legend. He is an absolute legend to the world and to me personally. I love him so much. Would I say he's my favourite Determined one? Maybe. There are going to be people annoyed at me for that. I love him so much. I love his project as well, because it's just it's just kind of everything I love. It's, in many ways, it's quite a classic thriller. It doesn't really have a subgenre, it's just a pretty straight thriller, and it's full of badassery, and this really, really awesome main character. I love him more than I could ever express in words, genuinely. And it's got the politics and the human rights and the action, the badassery, and the swords and the gore, and I just love it. I really do, and I think it's very fitting as a second book. Because if it had been my first, people would be like, oh right, she just writes these sorts of, fairly standard thrillers. But no, I write a diversity of different things. And I think by the end of 25, that'll be extremely obvious. I'll have a sort of cozy musical slice of life piece in Count the Stars. I'll have a political thriller like no other, genuinely, from It's Nakagami. I'll have a 1920s noir in Charcoal Rain, and I'll have this big sort of classic badass thriller in Black Executioner, and it's four very different things. And as a creative with lots of interests and lots of different things I want to do, I just love that. I do, and I think having the first questions about the Determined Ones answered in Ai Nagashima, for going to him next, because he's such a big, well, him and Haru are such big names throughout the compendium, such big characters. Going to the both of them first, I just think that's cool. Like, you see these two people from the beginning and they go all the way through, and you get Hanzo from the beginning as well, but you don't get him until later. He's going to be the 5th book coming out. And I think that's also very perfect for him, because you get so many different angles on who he is. You just think, who the hell is this guy? And then you read about him, and no matter where you've come from and how you view it, he's not going to be the guy you thought he was. Because he's not the guy I thought he was. He is a law unto himself. Those are the main writing things coming that, again, I'm not good at expressing emotions in words spoken. That's not something I'm good at because of many reasons at this point, but I am so insanely hyped for that. I'm really excited for all of these things. I can't wait. I can't wait for the angry DMs either, like, genuinely. Myrna, if you're listening to this, I don't know if you are, but if you are at any point in the future, she's gonna be so angry with me, and I can't wait. Like, legit, it's gonna be so funny. So let's move away from writing for the minute and talk about another really big thing for 2025. And this is going to go well beyond 2025 because it's just that big a project. And this is a game dev project. And a working title for it at the minute, this is probably going to stay, is Books and Buds. And this is, I guess, a sort of management sim that I'm deving. It's very early concept stage at the minute. And I did actually briefly shelve it to work on a 1930s noir, but this project I just love more, and I think it's needed more. This is, this whole time period we're in, and we're going to be in for a while. This is a time where we need art and we need community like never before, and Books and Buds is a lot of that. It's a lot about art, it's a lot about community. The idea, I don't want to give away too much about the game, but I mean, it's sort of inherent in the title that it's a management sim, and a lot of that revolves around books and the importance of books. And Buds, it's the community, it's your friends, it's making friends in this community and building a community and fighting against oppression. sort of Velvet Revolution, but not. It's just about the value that art brings, the value that community brings, and really fostering that. And it's quite cozy. It's cute. I don't know exactly how the art and everything is going to look yet. That's something that I'm working on. I'm going to make the Pinterest board that I have for that for my own dev purposes. I'm going to remake that public again. I secreted it when I shelved the project, but that's going to become public again because this is the game dev project that I really want to work on. And yes, I know that I've not got any following as a game dev yet, but this is going to take so long to dev because it's narrative led, and it's quite a long narrative, sort of by design, because there are all these different communities and how it comes together and the different structures and everything that I sort of feel it doesn't matter. But yeah, this is something that I want to make a space to talk more about this. That might end up being sort of installments on the podcast. That might be a thing. That might be something that I do on Blue Sky, because there seems to be quite a lot of game dev on Blue Sky. That might be something I set up a second Twitter account for, because there's definitely a lot of game dev on Twitter. I'm not really sure, but that is definitely something to keep your eye out on. I'm really excited for this project because it's one of those things that is going to have a bit of the Stardew Valley effect of, oh, just another day, but it's just wholesome, but it doesn't shy away from the darkness and the dark topics. Like there are two pretty big characters who are veterans, and there is a thread on veterans' mental health, and it doesn't shy away from it. And I think that's important given what I'm trying to do with this game and what it's become. And for what it's worth, there is a cat. I mean, from the beginning I knew this is a cozy management sim game, there needs to be a cat somewhere. And for a while I did toy with the idea of the cat manning the till, but it's become something slightly different. Another really big thing I want to do for this year actually relates very directly to this podcast, and this is I want to get more interviews. Like, big time I want to get more interviews. I've had 3 this year. I've had NJ Alexander, I've had Willie Handler, and I've had Scott J. Moses, and it was an absolute blast with all 3 of them. Again, thanks to all those 3 for coming on, I really do appreciate it. And as I said earlier, this is a time where we need art and culture and writing like never before. So I want to do what I can to help. And even if that's just making myself more aware of people and everything, every little thing I can do helps. Every little thing that anyone can do matters. Because altogether it creates a bigger movement, a bigger thing. It's just encouragement for individual artists, if nothing else. And if that's something I can do, that's something I want to do. So I'm going to do the interview plug right now. If you are published or on the way, please get in touch. I would love to be a part of your journey. My email is on screen. I'm jade42black@gmail.com. There's no restriction on length or genre or age category or anything like that. Whatever you have, bring it in. Let's see what we can do. Indie and self-pub writers, you are the people I want to hear from the most. But yet that is something I really want to make a big effort with. So, but there's more for me in 2025. It's going to be a lot of work, but I do best when I'm busy. And there's a lot I want to do, and a year's a long time as well, in many ways. Might not have felt like it this year, but that's probably because I've done so much. And one of the main things I'm going to be doing in 2025 is a master's. And I've talked before on this podcast a bit about my academic journey. I did originally have a PhD lined up for this academic year. That fell through. So I've been looking at doing a master's starting in January. I've had a couple of offers come through already. There are more applications I want to send out and more people I'm waiting on and people I need to chivvy today because their system is broken, which is fun. But that is one way or another something I'm going to be doing, because there is one offer I've had that I would be happy to do. So that's good. It keeps me busy. And I'm going to be honest, it is because I've really struggled to find work, as many people have, because of gestures to the world. I mean, just fucking look at it. So I have the option of doing an MA, so that's what I'm going to be doing, because it's at least something. And maybe that's quite why I'm pushing so hard with the artist, to keep myself sane while all that's going, but hey, all's well that ends well. And talking of ends well, I want to talk about building the bank, because this is very much a case of all's well that ends well. I talked a little bit in my backlog transformation episode about making some of my old projects into novelettes and sort of reconcepting them. I've put some serious work. It's a very eclectic mix of some very, very new projects and some really old ones, including the first project I started my writing career on. It's coming back. I found a way to bring it back. All's well ends well. That doesn't have a happy ending though, mind. And this is something I'm really excited to do as a creative, just doing different things, tackling completely different stuff, flexing the writing muscles, writing about fantasy, about treasure hunters, about gods, about vampires, about serial killers, about ghosts, about all kinds of different things and different ways and different lengths and different tenses and POVs and multi-POV, and some of it's quite serious, some of it's very serious and gritty, and some of it is not, and some of that is sort of CPD in ways, and some of that is just, I've had these ideas, I'm interested, it's good to have side projects. I talked about this in my How to Write Faster episode and what works for me. Sometimes it's just fun to do stuff that's creatively different, so I've made more time and more ways to do that. And I think that's really important as a creative in general. Also for me, with all these ideas and interests that I have, it'd be a shame if I didn't pursue them. So I'm pursuing them in my own way, more detail in an episode to come, because I'm just excited about these projects and I wanted to talk about them because there's so much, and I'd like to get more short stories and things published. There have been some really cool sub-calls that I've had to miss out on just because I don't have anything for them, and I don't want that to happen again the next time they open. So that is something that's going to be, all being well, these projects are going to be coming maybe quite soon, maybe in 25, who knows. And lastly, for 2025, I want to do more art, always more drawing and things like that. I've actually had a slew of really interesting concepts for art for the determined ones, and I've got a solid aesthetic art-wise that I like to do with that now. So that's going to be really fun. I actually did a day very recently, as of recording this, where I did live art updates, where I was just drawing like basically all day, doing sketches, and I recorded some and edited them as time lapses and all sorts. And I was just sort of posting them either when I finished or like roughly after an hour. And it was just really, really fun. And it was something I really needed for my mental health on that day. I am not going to lie, because particularly that style of art I was doing comes from so deeply within. It's something that starts out very ugly and then becomes very beautiful, and a lot of people seem to really value that. So yeah, more art is definitely something that I want to be doing, partly for CPD and because it's fun and for the determined ones, but I just want to do more of it. And something I really, really, really want to make more time for is music. You know, I'm a composer, I've talked about that before, but I don't make enough time to make my own music. And I miss it like hell. I do, and I look back on my old Logic projects and I think, damn, I was good at this. I'm still good at this. I pick up my instrument and I still got it. I still do bits of jazz soloing to tablas because that's what I found to be an easiest way to learn it. I always get so sad that it's been so long since I've done so much of it. You know, there are times where I would just pump them out like I did with the live art almost. I'd write so much music and it's been so long since I've done that, and I did bits of it for my undergrad degree when I was doing that as a mature student, and it felt so good and I loved it so much. I need to make more time to do that. That's something that I'm going to be doing. If you want updates on this, going to be sort of semi-live at any point, then you'll want to follow me on different socials. I mean, I don't know where I'll be talking about what and when exactly in terms of some things, so I don't really know when and where I'll be talking about game dev. That's something I need to figure out. And I don't really know where I'll be talking about music. That's also something I need to figure out, but there are dedicated places for writing and for art. And those are the two things that I'll be talking about the most. So if you want to find them, they're the two places I'm most active. Writing is Twitter, I'm JBlack21 on there. I also host the monthly Thrills writing prompts for those that aren't aware. And if you're looking for art, that is Pinterest. I'm Jade_Black21 on there. There's also some like really cool world building stuff and image collections of where these places I write about sort of look like, and some concept art and things like that, and it's cool. But if you're looking for other places, I mean, I'm not around, I'll be honest, on Instagram or on Blue Sky very much, but any key updates you want from me will be there. Be that release dates or just anything I perceive as a major update, you will find it there. So if those are the places you're at, I'm also there. I'm Jade_Black on Instagram and Jade_Black21 on Instagram and JBlack21 on Blue Sky. For what it's worth, on Instagram, I do also shout out in advance what the episode of the week of the podcast will be. So if you've been enjoying the podcast, then that is a good place for you to check out. But wherever you are, I also am, and I'll be doing. And until next time, friends, you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a like. It helps the channel a lot. Intro and outro music by me. Copyright JBlack 2024.